It's the 13th of October 1972, and a rugby team from Uruguay is on board in an airplane and they're heading toward Chile. While they are mid-air, the captain says in the speakerphone that we're gonna hit some mild turbulences and you shouldn't worry. The plane took off from Montevideo, capital of Uruguay, and it was going to Santiago, Chile. The doctor of the rugby team was Roberto Canessa, and he asks one of the players, why is the airplane so close to the mountains? A few seconds after saying this, one of the airplane's wings hits the mountain and starts heading downhill. Just like we said, Roberto Canessa was the doctor of the entire team. And it's good to know that he has written a book about his experiences on this plane crash. He said when we hit the ground, he hit his head so hard into the front seat that he was dizzy and he couldn't realize what was going on. In his writing, he said he thought he was dead, but the other passengers screamed and yelled so much that he came to reality and realized what was happening. The first thing he saw is one of their players bleeding from the eyeball, and a lot of other people had broken bones and they were wheezing. You guys are probably familiar with the Andes Mountain, the longest mountain range in the world that forms the border of Chile. The unluckiest part about this crash is that it crashed into the mountain range, a place where there is a lot of snow and there is heavy snow coming down. The passengers that are sitting inside the plane smell some jet fuel and they immediately announce that we have to leave because there is a chance of fire. They all get out, take out their luggage, and form a cross in the snow so maybe somebody can see them from above. They also form an SOS inside the snow, which means help. But there's so much snow coming down that it gets blocked off and you can't see it. 2 days has passed and these guys are struggling, but they're surviving. In these 2 days, 2 airplanes pass by over them, but none of them notice that there's people down here. This flight had 45 people in it and 12 of them died on impact. 5 of them died a few hours after because of bleeding, and there's only 28 people left by now. Nobody finds these guys. And over 2 weeks has passed, and eventually we get to the 17th day. These guys are in the middle of a mountain range that has millions of tons of snow. A giant avalanche forms and heads towards the direction of the aircraft. It reaches the aircraft and takes 9 of the people with them. Everything they had in the aircraft they had eaten, and the aircraft had crashed in the elevation of 3,600 meters, somewhere that's extremely cold. Till this day, they didn't have any issues for food, but the cold climate was killing them. In terms of water, they didn't have issue because they could just eat the snow, but the food is ending and the cold weather is killing them slowly. That is why the first thing they do is take different parts of the aircraft and form shields from the cold winds so they can stay warmer. When the sun would come out, it would blind them so bad they couldn't even see, and that is why they invented some type of sunglasses with the leather they found on the pilot's seat. Also, there were a few people suffering from broken bones. They took metal pieces off the chairs and formed a type of cast so it doesn't hurt them anymore. With this method, they basically prevented the broken bone from healing incorrectly. Roberto Canessa was the doctor of the team. That is why he felt responsible in terms of helping everybody. Roberto even took care of the bodies that were killed with the avalanche and buried them next to them under the snow. Roberto continues in his book and says, he was with a few young people that had figured out how to live, and since they wanted to survive even harder, they were even smarter and they were doing everything they could to survive. When we get to the 17th day, there is no more food left. The elevation is so high that there is no animal to hunt and eat. All of them knew that there is some meat under the snow where they're sitting, the dead bodies. They suffered a lot by not eating. But eventually, they had to come up with a plan, and we all know what it is. Most of the passengers of the aircraft were religious Christians, and doing something like this and eating a human was extremely against their religion. Roberto Canessa was pretty much the only person on board that knew anything about the human body, and he knew what to eat so it could be better than other parts of the body. Roberto Canessa says this was one of the hardest things we had to do, because we were not only eating humans, we were eating people that we knew hours before, and we knew these people for years, but now we were forced to eat them. One of the people on board was Coche Inciarte. He could not eat the human flesh whatsoever, and he denied all the offers. Nobody forced him, but a few hours after, he eventually gave in and started eating. They all agreed that we could eat these bodies to survive, but there were only 3 exceptions. Children bodies that were buried, and these children belong to the team and the people that work for the team. Roberto was a very strong-minded person, and he tried to send this power and strength to his teammates. He basically gave them hope to continue fighting and not give up. He would even say, if I had died and my friends were starving, I would tell them to eat me to survive. The people that survived this plane crash would always say that without Roberto, we wouldn't survive for a long time, because he gave us hope and he gave us a positive mindset rather than a pessimist. And he was also a doctor, so he was helping everybody all the time. Throughout the time they had crashed in the mountains, they had a walkie-talkie that they always tried to contact other people around them. But unfortunately, after a month they realized that nobody is answering, and that means nobody's coming to save them. Eventually, when they realized that nobody is coming to rescue them, they decided that they have to leave this site and try to find help for themselves. 3 of the passengers make themselves custom shoes so they can walk in the snow and start heading towards the up direction. And when they head up, they can realize what type of a location they're located in. When they go up, they get terrified because they were located in the middle of the mountain range, and each direction you looked at, there was a bunch of mountains. Eventually, they started heading downhill. 2 of them starts heading downhill. This continues for 10 days straight, and they reach a place where their snow had melted and there was snow on the ground, and even there was a little river going beside the snow. Seeing this river and some grass gave them hope to continue fighting. They walk 70 kilometers in one direction when they see this, so hopefully they can reach somewhere. After heading one direction for so long, they eventually hit a village, and they asked the villagers that we have to contact the government so they could help us airlift some people inside the mountain range. After 70 days since the crash of the airplane inside the mountain range, the Chilean government sent 2 rescue helicopters into the area the crash happened, and they find them and rescue them. 16 people survived this, and in total, 29 people had died. After these 16 people survived and were rescued, the newspaper went crazy on them. They said so many negative things about these guys that they didn't even want to show their face in public. Cannibalism was extremely forbidden in the Christian community, and they hated hearing that. And someone says a person that's forced to eat someone, it's better if they die rather than eat. After the church forgives them, at least in this country, they were safe and not attacked by the religious people. Even the family of the victims that were eaten were okay with these people eating them to survive, and they were forgiven in their mind, and they agreed with them that they would have done the same thing if they were in their shoes. But in total, Christianity didn't forgive them. Even if Uruguay's church forgave them, it was only good in this country. That is why they took the people that didn't forgive them, put them inside the aircraft, and smashed it inside the Andes Mountains. Let's see how you guys survive. But that was a joke.